Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the showdown between the Vampire Counts led by Manuel von Karstein and the Warriors of Chaos who are going to be led by Archaon, the Sometimes Chosen. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So as far as my army goes, I wanted to go with a very Cryptor heavy army. I know a lot of the builds I've done in the past with the Vampire Counts have usually used Terror Guys, so you use 1 or 2 Terror Guys, you take out the enemy Shaggots, and of course that's where you get your armor piercing from. But in this match, I wanted to use a bunch of Cryptors like I said, and I think in total I do have 3 groups. And Cryptors can be pretty solid in this matchup. They're very good against Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Of course, they will struggle against Chaos Warriors with halberds, and that was a build back in the day, but I don't see too many Chaos players doing that anymore. Essentially, what they used to do is get like Archaon, or pretty much any Garkolek, whoever, and get a whole front line of like Chosen with halberds, and the Chosen with halberds are so good, they could actually like beat your Graveguard. If you try and come in with Cryptors, they kill them. If you come in with like, freaking Terror Guys, they'll kill them as well. So it's very tough to deal with, but I wanted to see how they would do in the existing meta because, again, things have changed a little bit since then. So in the entire front line, we do have Cryptors here, in total 3 groups, 65 weapon strength with, how much of that is armor piercing? So 50, that's actually quite a bit of AP. And of course, they do apply poison. Also, something else about Cryptors, if you are using them, I've seen a lot of people use them in the front line and simply forget about them, but they do have a decent charge bonus of 24, and if they're sitting and taking sustained damage, I feel like you're not really reaping the benefit of their 50 speed, which is really good for cycle charging, pulling out, which kind of takes the aggro off them, forces your enemy missile units to overextend. So I really think that the Cryptors are a unit you have to stick and move and micro quite a bit. In the front line, all skeleton spears, so just kind of hoping my opponent went with heavy Shaggots and maybe even some trolls or something like that. But basically, the spearmen are there just to kind of fend off Shaggots, and really they're just holding things in place to allow my Mortis engine as well as the Cryptors to do the heavy lifting. 2 Banshees here, so if my opponent didn't bring Lore of Death and Spirit Leech, it's definitely going to be a little bit tricky to bring these things down. So we have 2 of those, and they have really good AP, good at assassinating enemy lords, good armor piercing against Chosen, just a decent unit here. We got Manfred with Spirit Leech, Fate of Buna, Invocation of Nehek, and Raised Dead, of course. And we do have the nerfed Claw of Nagash. So as you guys probably remember, the Claw of Nagash before used to have a perpetual AoE effect. So that means that, for example, let's say they were attacking these Graveguard or trying to drain these Graveguard. You could be riding in the area behind them, and you didn't have to be in melee contact to actually drain the life from the nearby units. But now, pretty much all of the Mortis engine effects, although I don't know if Helm and Gorst got that nerf. That's actually something that could be the new Gorst meta, but regardless, the Claw of Nagash definitely quite a bit weaker, but I still think it's very good against the Warriors of Chaos, who don't really have the best ranged options. You can get in there, kind of sit it behind your spears and your Graveguard and your Cryptors and have it drain, and it still has pretty good, decent melee stats itself. It does have 36 melee attack, 120 weapon strength, and some solid combat stats. And of course, it still heals, so it's going to be healing all your nearby units. So I still think it's worth it in the Chaos matchup. There's probably a couple other matchups in which I wouldn't bring it anymore, but still not bad. 2 groups of Graveguard in the back. We have the Sternsman and just some regular Graveguard, just to give us some meat in our front line, because again, these skeleton spears aren't the best. And that's pretty much it. So a relatively tight formation, just kind of trying to benefit from the healing. Oh, and how could I forget the mighty Black Coach, which is being chased by Archaon, the Sometimes Chosen. He's coming in with a big swooping strike. He gets a really nice hit there, so that's definitely a bummer. So I'm going to be rushing forward my Cryptors and Spearmen to kind of defend here. For my opponent, he does have Archaon with Lore of Fire, it looks like, in the front line, a very heavy core of Chosen. He does also have the Mirror Guard, so it looks like he's trying to just outlast me with his front line, take advantage of the fact that these guys have 120 armor as well as 64 melee defense. So very, very tanky front line. However, the only units here that are immune to psychology are going to be the Mirror Guard, which is pretty funny. And I think that's it. It's just all Chosen with the Sword and Board in the front line. He's going to be getting his armor piercing and anti-large here in the back with the Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes. And he also does have a Hell Cannon, which is a very strange pick in this matchup, but it's already made some okay contact and done some damage to my Cryptors and Spears. And I know in the very beginning of the game, it hit something right on the head. I think it was my Black Coach and did quite a bit of damage. So excited to see how that does. And Marauder Horseman, he's got some Hounds in the back. So maybe just trying to crumble my Skeleton Spears, break their leadership. And of course, the Skeleton Spears do get munched on by Hounds because the Hounds are considered infantry sized. So they're not the size of like regular monsters or, a monsters unit, for example. Anyways, guys, let's get this battle underway. So I'm going to be advancing the Cryptors, of course. I have to make sure they're not going, too close to these throwing axes because the throwing axes will melt them rather quickly. So what I do is I actually shift my entire formation. I just move them over in this direction and I try and overload this flank to force my opponent to collapse. So this is a very common tactic I use with Vampire Counts. And now we're going to get a great charge here. The Cryptor is just going to go balls deep into these Chosen right here. Hey, you can see some karate leaps coming in. These guys are going to be sampling. So this is great. The Chosen are going to be wasting many of their attacks on skeletons. The Cryptor is bringing the heavy armor piercing. But this is kind of a formation shift tactic, which I really wanted to show you guys this game. So essentially I engage, and then with the Graveguard and the Skeleton Spears over here, I then form like a wall. So it forces your opponent to wrap all the way up and around you. And it's very, very good, when you're using the Vampire Counts, in my opinion. So you can see I'm forming another wall here, which is going to, take a while for these Chosen to get through. In the meantime, the throwing axes are melting some of my Cryptors, so I'm going to be pulling them back in just a moment. The Claw of Nagash is now in on the front line here, and it's going to be draining some of these Chosen and hopefully doing some pretty good work. Archaon, of course, does rush in there, and he wants to get some of that sweet action, but the throwing axes are doing a lot of work. You can see my my Cryptors here are taking a bit of damage. My other ones are also down pretty low to, well, pretty low on HP, but they still have 11 models. So with Manfred, I do summon some skeletons back there to just try and chase off these Marauder Horsemen and screen them a little bit. And but this is also another thing, taking advantage of the speed of the Cryptors. You can see I'm pulling them all back, and clearly you can see what my opponent was targeting. All of his Marauder Horsemen are trying to keep up with them. So what I do is I pull all the Cryptors back here in just a moment, I bunch them up, and then I will be healing them with an Invocation of Heck, but it looks like I did push in one group that was somewhat healthy. But yeah, that forced my opponent to overextend his Marauder Horsemen into the front line. They got drained a little bit, but for the most part, the Black Coach is doing all the heavy lifting. So it's actually back here, and these of course are large units, so he's not going to get his bonus for his infantry, but the Black Coach still able to cause terror, so you can see it terror routes those troops, and the Mirror Guard are going to push back as well and try and help out. Let's see what the Soul of Damnation, not the Soul of Damnation, I think it's just regular Hell Cannon. That's bad luck. Yeah, so I think it's actually shooting at the Cryptors, but taking advantage of the Cryptor speed, I looked to where my opponent had his Marauder Horsemen. I was like, okay, I don't want any of that. I'm going to get all the Cryptors and just kind of bro charge these Chosen over here, so you can see they've come in. They're going to start dropping some heavy AP, but again, even these Chosen, though they should be countered by Cryptors, are so tanky with their 64 melee defense, and their 120 armor still does matter against heavy AP units because the damage of the Cryptors that isn't armor piercing, which is only 10, is going to be mitigated by that armor. So in the meantime, the Throwing Axe is still kind of dropping some bombs on the Black Coach over here, and the Claw of Nagash is being heavily targeted by his other group here. And I don't really have much left on this formation. You can see the Sternsmen are just kind of holding, but they are being flanked by Hounds, attacked by Chosen, which are a far superior unit. And it looks like the Never Chosen was helping out as well. In the meantime, though, the Black Coach is trying to ride dirty. It's riding through some of these Mirror Guards, Sigvald's personal bros. Just trying to get into the Chosen, do as much damage as I can, but you can see a couple of Cryptors are falling to these guys, so not wanting to leave them in sustained combat and also needing to protect my Claw of Nagash, I just sent all of them to intercept Archaon. So it will do some okay damage. Archaon is really high melee defense, and they do have low melee attack, but they're still going to poison him and will do some decent damage. And more importantly, it does buy time for my Claw of Nagash, but it looks like that. Where's that shooting? Yeah, I think he's shooting right into the blob with the Hell Cannon, which does do magic damage. So it's actually one of the few ways he has to kill the Banshee, because I don't think he brought Fireball. So Skeleton Spears and the boys in here. The Black Coach is just riding dirty through these Chosen and still generating some really good value. And as much of a meme as the Black Coach used to be, I think it's a pretty good pick in a lot of matchups. Even the Chaos matchup, very good versus Infantry, AP, of course, Fear and Terror, also very good in the Beastman matchup. So I do think the Black Coach is a decent unit now. And I am actually working on a pretty fun video you guys will be seeing in the next week or two. It's going to be the worst units in Total War. So that's going to be kind of the topic of the video, which will be pretty funny. But we do stop Archaon. Archaon kind of gets pinned down by some of these Cryptors, and that buys time for the Claw of Nagash to get another Invocation of Nehek from Manfred. So Manuel is doing a pretty good job in here summoning zombies to kind of muck up these Marauder Horsemen who were overextending a little bit to try and get on that Claw of Nagash, but just kind of sticking and moving wherever I can with the Cryptors, not leaving them in one place for too long, which is really doing pretty well for me. I'm getting some good kills. I'm able to kind of force his missiles out of position and ultimately get the benefit of that little charge bonus there. But Archaon is definitely going to be very good versus Cryptors, who are weak to fire. And does he actually do fire damage? No, he doesn't. But of course, he could use Flaming Sword of Ruin, I suppose. But anyways, he's chopping down those Cryptors pretty good. So I'm probably going to want to pull out there in just a moment. Manfred and the boys doing okay. And the Claw of Nagash is healthy again, but still taking some heavy fire from these Marauder Horsemen. The Chosen are charging in. It looks like there's a group of 51. Balance of Fire is pretty much dead even at this point. So Manfred obviously caught a little bit out of position. I will be summoning some zombies to charge them in to, hold these Chosen in place while the Claw of Nagash can continue to generate value for me. The Hell Cannon is still online though, so definitely some very sloppy play from me. Actually, I think I summoned those zombies to shut down the Hell Cannon. So you can see they're going to be coming back here to start fighting these Chaos Dawi, and let's see what their melee stats. So they actually have 28 weapon strength, which is pretty funny, but a sign of things to come. The Chaos Dwarves rise. But anyways, the zombies fighting there. The Claw of Nagash is just basically running from Archaon, who's out on the hunt, and the Cryptors just going around, and wherever my opponent has like isolated pocket of infantry that are away from the throwing axes, I'm basically just doing everything I can. And you can see that Manfred is going to do a rear charge on Archaon, who's going to pop the Slayer of Kings, so definitely a little bit dangerous right now, but the Claw of Nagash is still alive, and that's what's important. There is a group of throwing axes over here, 27 models. They could potentially chip this down, so that would be incredibly bad for me. And you can see Manfred's trying to fight Archaon, but obviously that's a pretty uphill fight. In the meantime, the Hell Cannon, it looks like it's not shooting. The zombies are their AI, not doing the best. They're a little bit mucked up here, but hopefully they can. So if this does happen to you in a game and you notice it, I obviously didn't notice it because it's not a very important aspect of my micromanagement here. But you just want to path them past the Hell Cannon to like move them right here and then attack once they have them surrounded. That's going to be the proper way to do it. So Archeon and Manfred having a duel of fates in here. Archeon obviously quite a bit stronger than Manfred, but again, he is surrounded. He does have some Chosen, as well as, I think, the Mirror Guard. No, it looks like it's just Chosen. So they're going to be able to get through those Sternsmen. The Cryptor is just running from Archeon now that he's mucked up. We're going to be going after this group of Chosen here and getting that heavy AP. So I think this build is working pretty well considering we went with the sword and board. Had he gone with halberds, I think it would have been extremely tough. Yeah, but the halberds again would have cut through the spearmen a little bit slower. But yeah, I still think the ideal way to go is with halberds, but definitely get some good stuff here from these guys. But yeah, the Chosen are holding probably a lot of kills, 61, 62. But the Cryptor is, of course, a very, very good answer to them. And you can see the Claw of Nagash is just going to be draining. I am doing my best to keep it in melee, but definitely a pretty substantial nerf. But I see why they did it, because again, it was a mechanic that could be abused, especially with the Claw of Nagash. I'd had a handful of games on ladder where, you know, someone had like the Claw of Nagash, for example, and they would just be like kiting you into oblivion. Like it would be like a 20-minute draw kite where eventually they would kill you with the draining effect because your unit was slower. And I think that was a really kind of a, you know, that those type of mechanics are very detrimental to the game. So I understand why they did it, but it did hurt the vampire counts quite a bit. Cryptors are going to be charging in, re-engaging Archeon, the Never Chosen in here, sometimes Chosen, whatever you guys want to call him. And hopefully we can polish him off at this point. There are some Chosen kind of rallying here, again, being very, very elite troops. But, ooh, that guy got clubbed right in the face by that guy. Cryptor is charging back in, going to be doing some decent work. They are steady. I mean, steady for them is 20 leadership. And, of course, the Claw of Nagash should be able to finish them off. So at this point, it's mostly cleanup duty. You can see the Black Coach and everyone just kind of teaming up on the Never Chosen here. But he's putting up a good fight. I mean, he's killing the Mortis engine. He's killing a lot of guys, but he is going to get hit with army losses there. So it was a pretty close battle at the end, actually. Like, a lot of my stuff started to fall apart, but I'm trying to think about the advantage of using the sword and board. So the sword and board variant does, I think, have 10 more melee attack than the halberd Chosen. So I suppose in an infantry engagement versus like Graveguard and Chaff, they're going to last longer and take less damage overall, simply because of their high melee defense. But the halberd version is just so good against vampires because all the good AP options for the vampire accounts are large for the most part. You have Cryptors, you have Coaches, you have the... I mean, I guess Graveguard with great weapons, but I think that one of the weaker units on the Graveguard, or not Graveguard roster, the Vampire Counts roster is the Graveguard with great weapons, so I definitely think that the halberds are probably a safer way to go if you want to go with like a heavy Chosen build. But there's a bunch of ways Chaos can play that. I really think that Shaggus are incredibly good because if they go Terrorgeist, Shaggus microed properly can kill them. If they go with Cryptors, Shaggus are going to just punish Cryptors as well, and they have the speed to keep up with them. So I do think that's kind of the ideal way. But you could always get like Archeon, who does really well in this matchup. And then you could also get like, regular Shaggoth or the Summoners of Rage or something like that to counteract the vampire counts. So anyways, very well played to my opponent, Spectre A01. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this vampire count game. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.